An error occurred. Then try again. That's promising. Alrighty, trying again. Welcome all to another episode of TurinGiants Presents The Scoop, your go-to resource to cut through all the noise regarding the Juventus transfer market and get a little dose of truth of what is happening behind the scenes. As always, my name is Zach, and I'm joined by Frederic, from whom we get our inside transfer information. Frederic, what the heck is going on with your name on screen? It has
Good evening.
changed.
Good evening, Zach. Yes, I've made some changes. I'm going through a midlife crisis as we speak. Apart from that, I've changed my name to the name of our Instagram page while everything was directed in the past to the Turin Giants page on Insta, which is very nice because, hey, we're family and all, but I wanted to give the audience a chance to reach out to me directly should they have any questions or comments regarding the show, players, future signings, whatever, so they can reach out personally. I thought that would be nice for them, beneficial for them. I don't know, so let's give it a try. So everybody, if you're watching, listening, whatever, follow us as well at the Scoop Juve on Insta. And if you have any questions, feel free to let me and Zach know so we can provide you with some answers in between our podcast episodes.
And that stands for recommendations as well. We demoed two new segments last episode. The first being the tracking a transfer. We're going to take a little spin on that after some feedback from y'all today, and another segment called Looking Ahead, where we took a sort of a holistic look at the starting or the sort of the depth chart of Juventus and commented to how competitive we thought it is. That has overwhelmingly had positive reviews. So we're going to continue to do that, though we're going to kind of postpone doing it again until Juventus as a team transitions more to the acquisition side of the transfer market. Lately, and today's episode is no different. We're focusing on potential departures. In addition to those two segments, we are going to be actually just starting a new segment today, what's called the Scoop Reviews, where we sort of analyze the signings that Juventus has made, obviously the two being Jonathan David and Chico Conceição, and we will continue to do that segment as new signings are officially confirmed by the team moving
Yep.
forward. So please, any recommendations, thoughts, feedback on those types of things, send it to us directly. Zach Talks Calcio, me, the Scoop Juve, Frederic, or to TurinGiants, sort of the general Instagram as well. Because we do read those comments, we do read that feedback, and we do try to act on it. But
Yes.
with that,
Also,
oh, go ahead.
sorry, before we begin, I just wanted to say a quick shout out. It's been a while since our last episode. And in between episodes, it would seem that our friend from Porto, João Mario, has just landed in Turin. He's going to undergo his medicals tomorrow morning at La Continassa. So it is more than likely that he'll become a Juventus player by tomorrow.
So when I talk about the Scoop reviews, reviewing acquisitions, we will not be doing him today because it's not been formally confirmed, but that is a player we will be doing in a future episode. And I know from just looking at the social media verse that Juventus fans have a lot of opinions about that deal. So we are excited to kind of give our thoughts on the player and where and how he would fit into our team on a future episode. So stay tuned. All right, with that, I think let's jump into the content of the episode. That's what people are here. As a reminder, there's a video component to this. If you are just listening or if you're on Apple Podcast, feel free to switch over to Spotify video or YouTube. If you're on YouTube, throw us a subscribe. We're trying to get our numbers up there, though I do have to credit our many commenters to whom I directly reply. I think almost everybody. We appreciate you. The subscriptions have gone up, the views have gone up on all these videos, and we are eternally grateful for that. All right, enough talking. Let's jump into it. Our list of potential departures. First on our list, Frederic, is Douglas Luiz. Not, a lot of people have been reporting about, Costa, Mbangula, Jonathan David, Conceição, but nobody's really been talking about Douglas Luiz yet. We've had some pretty cool information on him. What is the story with Douglas Luiz, and what's the likelihood that he leaves our team?
It is very likely that he leaves. As I said in previous casts, he's not regarded as highly by Tudor. He's not happy in Turin either. So he's going to leave. The question is to which club, because a numerous amount of teams have shown interest, have made a concrete offer. At this point, Juventus, they basically gave the go ahead to two clubs. One is Everton, the other, I think, is Nottingham Forest. They made bids close to 38 to 40 million upwards. However, there has been no agreement reached thus far with the player himself. He's still on holiday and he asked his manager to leave him alone
Okay, so I was
for the
about to
time being.
ask:
So
is no deal a reflection of his, not meeting his salary demands, or they just haven't gotten down to sit down to talk about it? Sounds like they just haven't gotten to sit down
I,
and
I
talk about it at this point.
my personal feeling is also that he's holding out for a bigger club. I think that he's very keen on returning to the Premier League, but I think he's waiting on that, sub how shall I put it, not the top sides, but just below that, so maybe he's holding out for a better offer. Also, salary wise, his demands are not standard demands, let's say. So I
I mean,
can
he's
see
what? He's the
him.
third highest paid player on our team, if I'm not mistaken, at
Yeah,
the equal to Bremer, behind Jonathan David and Vlahovic. So I would imagine he does have some decently high wage demands.
yeah, and he doesn't seem to share the opinion that, last season didn't do him any benefits in regards to his salary or his exposure towards other clubs. So it's gonna be a pickle to get through that whole thing. But uh, as I said, Juventus is willing to let him go if the fee is reasonable. So I shouldn't see any issues there, and I feel that he could be leaving before the second week of August, in my
Yeah, and,
opinion.
and and he's not going to want to stay at Juventus on the bench. Like, he doesn't want a repeat of last year, even if he's got a
No.
compromise. So, yeah, hot on Douglas Luiz. Next name on our list. In fact, the next two names on our list were individuals we loaned out last year. First one is Fabio Moretti. There's been some concrete interest from various clubs, but Juventus hasn't quite given the okay, have they?
They have not. They have specific demands for Miretti, not just financial. Juventus are very eager to get a buyback clause in, as Real Madrid does often.
Hmm.
I think that's the latest issue that they discussed with Napoli themselves. Napoli are very keen on Miretti, as is Conte. But the buyback clause is a must, or how do you call it
A
in
sell-on
English?
percentage of some kind
A
of.
sell-on percentage, yeah, something
Okay.
like that. So there's still ground to be moved, but Tudor gave the go-ahead to put him on the transfer list officially, and I wouldn't be surprised if the coming week a lot of teams will report. There's been some foreign interest, I think, from Ajax as well. No concrete offer yet, but good. Well, negotiations, conversations have started alongside with some other Italian teams. And just recently, just now, I got this text before we started our podcast. There's been some interest from Everton, who are also interested in Douglas Luiz.
Hmm.
So we might get to see some sort of package deal there in the future. Who knows?
Interesting. Well, needless to say, just like Douglas Luiz, we have the chance for Fabio Moretti to leave at hot. The second
Yes.
of our lone players returning is Facundo Gonzalez, a left-footed center back who I do not believe has played a minute for us yet. Is he going to see those minutes, or is he as good as gone?
I think he's as good as gone. The player himself also made it quite clear that he doesn't want to fill up the spot on the bench. He wants some starting time. So I think the chances of him leaving are very high. Also, the fact that we don't need that much of a transfer fee to balance the books on his transfer, and the fact that Tudor at this point has other priorities within a squad or gaps to fill. If we add one and one, then the logical explanation with him being seeing the exit door fairly soon. A number of teams have been interested, but the offers were very of the low ball kind. So let's see where that lands. But I expect him also, as Miretti and Luis, to be out the door fairly soonish.
Let's move to our Americans. both Americans have been talked about at times leaving. The first, Weston McKennie, because he only has 1 year left on his contract. But at least from what I've read and heard recently, there's been almost nothing said about him over the past week or so. Where do we stand on Weston McKennie leaving? Potentially on a free, potentially this summer, or in the opposite direction, maybe signing a renewal.
Well, the biggest issue with McKennie at this point is whether it be a renewal or a contract at a new team, is that the salary demands are pretty unrealistic. Meaning that, we don't want to spend as much on him, even though we value him as a player. We don't want to give in to his salary expectations. But also the fact, given that he has such high demands, it makes it difficult for smaller teams to approach him. And with smaller, I don't mean like Serie B or something, but the lower sided teams. I mean, let's be honest, it's not like Real Madrid's gonna come over and fork out 50 million for Weston McKennie. But the teams that are interested are a bit scared of his demands right now, so it leaves us a bit of in hot water, so to speak,
You say
because
hot
either
water, but the chances we have for him to leave are just at warm right now.
yeah,
So
yeah.
so not, I mean, more likely than not, but not heavily likely. I mean, would you be surprised if, similar to last year, there's some sort of last minute agreement on some sort of contract extension um, with Juventus?
Mm, at this point, there is not much that could surprise me
Okay.
at Juventus. So it's a bit no, but it's also
Maybe that's the wrong
Tudor is
question.
what I receive from feedback about Tudor is that he's a little fickle. Like he could botch a player on day one, then see him train or perform well in a game and says, "Whoa, we need that guy." So he doesn't have that vision. He has it with a couple of players, but not with every. I mean, remember Chico like last
Well,
season
wait, hold
didn't
on.
get
We'll talk.
much
We'll
playing
talk
time.
about him. We'll talk
Yeah,
about.
sorry.
Actually, you're
So
spoiling one of our segments. We're
I'm
going to talk
sorry. I'm
about
sorry. I'm
this.
sorry. I'm sorry. This was an automatic reply, but Weston could go both ways. I think it all depends on um his ability to adapt in terms of financial standpoint. I think Juventus would welcome him for an extension if his demands were reasonable. So yes, it's water and wine thing, if he can settle a bit, then I think we could find a deal with another team or with Juventus. But his demands at this point are just too high, and I expect something to come up because Tudor has planned when we started preseason to have a personal conversation with every player in the squad regarding his desires, his the things he wants to see in the future. So let's see, what that will bring. So we're in for a roller coaster again with our good friend Wes.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, he's on 2.5 mil net a year in his current contract.
He wants five.
Okay, so that would put him, yeah, I think, sort of thirdish, tied for thirdish on our team in wages, with like
Yeah.
Bremer and Douglas Luiz and so forth. Oh, let's go to the next American. Wait a minute, Frederic. Timothy Weah, I thought, and I heard, and everybody told me is as good as gone.
hmm
Why do we have him only listed as warm?
Well, he was as good as gone, but what happened was we received an offer, which we agreed to fairly. It was 15 million from Olympique Marseille, but then Olympique Marseille said, "Well, hold on, we want to give you that 15 mil, but we're gonna buy him like next season, so we want a loan with an obligation to buy." Juventus was not expecting that. They were hoping to receive that lump sum now so they could invest in the transfer market. Um, mm, the thing there was that Weah already agreed personal terms with Marseille, had his heart
Mhm.
set on moving there, so that made it a bit more difficult. And then Juventus came back and said, "Okay, we can do it, but we need 20." So they upped their price a bit, and now the ball's in the court of Marseille because for a team like Marseille, 20 million for just one player is still a lot of money. They're not like financially very stable at this point. So we'll see what they will do. Will they fork out the 15 right now to get him ASAP, or will they, play ball with Juve and make it like a 5 for this season and 15 at the end of June or something like that. We'll see where that goes. But Weah's made it very clear that he is desperate to have that move. So yeah.
It sounds like there might be some posturing, though. I think at the end of the day, this is the type of deal that we're going to see happen, right? I mean, the player wants it, Juventus wants it, Marseille wants it. You know, if we're going to haggle over, I think where Kamoli makes his money is kind of getting the best out of that 5 million difference, right?
Yeah.
But it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But it's one of these deals it's probably going to. I mean, pretty much going to.
It would surprise me, but then again, we have seen crazier stories. I mean, all
Yeah,
it takes is for one team like to come in with a better offer and charm the pants of Timothy, and then he's gone. In
yeah,
either
yeah, yeah.
way, we stand to gain something from it
Hmm.
financially, and
Yeah, yeah.
Kamoli's very firm on that. So
Hmm.
it was not like we said like a month ago. What was it to the EPL for like 7 million or what was it? That's not gonna happen.
Now that seemed like, now in retrospect, I think we can all agree that the combo package of Mbangula to the EPL was a last ditch effort to balance the year end books without the need for a capital injection.
Yeah,
Correct? Yeah.
correct.
Because the offer, I think, was widely considered insulting from everybody, but I don't think many of us talked about, not to say that this makes it less insulting, but it was in light of this sort of financial compliance as opposed to necessarily fair market value.
Yeah,
With that being said, I am glad we did not do that, because we're going to end up getting more for both Mbangula and Weah.
yeah.
Now, okay, two more names, and then we're going to move into the new segments. We got Rugani, another lone player that has returned. Um, Mr. Consistency, I like him. I kind of want him to stay, be a bench rotational player. He's a remnant of our successful past as well. Should we be expecting that he stay with us this year, or is his destination elsewhere?
That's a very good question, and that's one you need to ask our coach because where he Tudor was very amendment on the fact that Rugani was somebody that could leave, that he had no issues with if he would leave, is now coming back on his steps, and the fact that he's considering to let him train a bit on preseason to see where he stands. I think that Tudor maybe now sees the consistency that Rugani brings. And with the unavailability of Cabal and Bremer, it could be a useful pawn at the beginning of the season because it is not yet known as to when Bremer or Cabal will return. And it's been a while since they've been injured. So those are red flags that are showing up at Tudor, and he wants this defense to be as stable as possible. And if you keep on selling left back and center backs without gaining something in return for them, it makes it difficult. So Tudor is a bit on the fence right now about Rugani. So could go both ways, to be honest.
And that's why we have him at room temperature. Okay, final name on our list, the man himself, Dusan Vlahovic. Where do we stand on him?
There have been, luckily, some new developments regarding Dusan because Juventus have shown interest in Molina from Atletico Madrid, which I feel is a very good player. I wanted him like 2 years ago when we were first interested, I think. Um, and our good friends at Atletico said, "Hey, but you have that Dusan guy walking around like Continassa. Can't we make something happen?" Of course, Juventus were over the moon when they heard that, and they started talks to see where we could land. Now, Dusan himself is very intrigued by the possibility. Our good friend Molina as well, because Atletico just purchased somebody else on his position, so that means he'll get a bit of competition there. But and here is the big but. Our friends at Atletico want another compensation. They want Molina's contract to be paid out by Juventus, the remainder. Juventus is not as keen on that, so discussions ongoing. But this is the hottest trail that we have at the moment.
It sounds like it's pretty still new in terms of the negotiations and development. So there's very much, there's still, could very well be a lot of developments there, correct?
Yeah, And the
Okay.
thing is, it could go very quickly as well because you don't need a financial injection. It's a straight player swap if we can agree terms. So these are things that could happen fairly quickly without haggling too much about price or bonuses or add-ons or commissions for the agents or what have you. So this is something that could be blown out of the water very soon, or that could happen very soon. So I'll keep you posted, or I'll try to keep you all posted.
Yeah, the this Dusan Vlahovic news and the Douglas Luiz news that we've been reporting on the last couple episodes and on Instagram, I think are stuff I really haven't heard anywhere else. And so I think this is a cool look into some of the inside scoops that Frederic has provided us. And I think there's no better time to play the drop in light of this in light of this
I felt it
revelation.
coming. I felt it
Yeah,
coming.
it's time, Frederic. All right, let's do it.
Let's
And
do it.
now, Freddy Scoops with the scoop. He's the best in the business, see?
He already gave the scoops, but we as an homage to him and the scoops provided, we do the sound drop, and I think that'll serve as our pivot to two segments. One slightly reimagined from a previous one we demoed, and then a brand new one for y'all's entertainment and benefit. The first one, a reimagined version of the tracking a transfer that we're now calling the determining factor. Instead of kind of going through the whole narrative and saga of a player's acquisition, I wanted Frederic to pinpoint the determining factor that brought Conceição to Juventus as a permanent player. As many of y'all probably remember, towards the end of the season, certainly when Giuntoli was still here, the chance of him remaining was, per our temperature scale, cold. And then the Club World Cup came, Tudor comes in, Camoli comes in, and all of a sudden it went from room temperature to hot, hot, hot to now, within the last 24 hours, reported as a permanent player. Frederic, with you having all the inside info into how these deals and negotiations are put together, tell us, what was the determining factor for Chico Conceição joining Juventus as a permanent player?
The determining factor was the evening that Chico himself decided to call Villas Boas and tell him, look, I'm not going anywhere but Juventus. He rejected some other clubs, whose offers were above ours, salary-wise and transfer-wise. But Chico made it very clear to Villas Boas himself, look, I want Juventus. I'm refusing everybody and everything else. So just make this happen. Don't let it drag on too long, because at the end of the day, I'm going to Juventus, no matter what it takes. And that made Porto realize okay, we have to get the best out of this situation. We have to sit back, we have to get back to the drawing board with Juventus and gain something. And eventually they Juventus gained what they wanted, and that was to pay in installments in order to have some liquid reserve for this transfer period. And Porto, from their side, obtained a pretty hefty transfer sum, which we'll discuss later. But it was Chico picking up the phone, yelling at Villas Boas and throwing a tantrum. That
And
helped us a lot.
and we're about to talk about it with both Jonathan David and Chico Conceição, but both players called their management and said, "I want Juventus," and I think that's something we haven't seen a lot. With sort of the stature of Juventus, with our performances and some of the signings we've made, maybe being somewhat diminished from the
Yep.
heyday of a decade ago, to
Yep.
have our two signings so far this year be players that said, I want Juventus above all else, I think is a really cool aspect to see, especially considering both players, and we're about to kind of go over it with you, I feel are good fits for the team and could be very successful here.
Yep.
And I think that's the perfect segue to a new recurring segment that we're going to do for each new signing that, I guess, each new senior team signing that Juventus makes. We are calling this new segment the Scoop Review, where we evaluate each new senior team signing based on two major criterion: ability divided further into technical ability and intangible ability, and the cost that they have against our books from wages, from a transfer fee, and other such fees, to then give you a final grade from 1 to 5 scoops of ice cream. How do we think this acquisition was. And we're going to start with Jonathan David, and I'll take the ability piece. So, like I said, we're going to divide ability for all new acquisitions by the technical ability and their intangibles. From a technical ability, Jonathan David is really a complete forward. He's a very good passer. He averages almost double the amount of completed passes per game that Dusan and Randall Colomwani had at Juventus. He's also a prolific scorer and, with his passing ability, assister. As 25 years old, he will, now that he has joined our team, he has the most goals and assists, goal contributions on our entire squad, more so than guys like Kostic and Milik, who've been, are veterans, right? As well as other prolific players like Koopmeiners and Vlahovic. Jonathan David has scored the most, has the most goals plus assists on our entire team, which demonstrates his overall quality at the young age, or I guess, fairly young age of 25. He's very good at dribbling. He is a pretty good at pressing too as a forward, which will be really important under Tudor. And he, after seeing, how one-footed Dusan has kind of harmed us in the possession and scoring game, getting Jonathan David in, who's fairly ambipedal, I think will be very good as in the build-up play, as well as developing scoring opportunities. From a technical standpoint, if I had to pick one negative, I'd say that on average, he does not get as many shots as other forwards per game, which is shocking to me considering his scoring numbers. So if we can get him a couple more looks in front of goal, considering how potent he's been, that will only go to benefit Juventus moving forward, in my opinion. From an intangible standpoint, he has got fantastic movement off the ball. I think he had upwards of 240 progressive passes received last year, which would have put him second on our team behind Yildiz. His balance on the ball also enables him, with his dribbling ability, to fashion chances for himself or to bring other players into play with his passing. And on top of that, we've had so many injuries. He's been extremely durable in his career, rarely getting injured and racking up tons of minutes every season across multiple competitions. From an intangible standpoint, if I had to pick, negatives, and these are kind of related, he only won about 24% of his aerial duels last year. That would made him second last on our team. And at 5'11", he doesn't have the large frame that a lot of Serie A forwards have, like Dusan Vlahovic or Randall Colomwani. 6'3", upwards of 180 to 200 pounds. So his danger is more in space than necessarily with his head. All in all, with these technical and intangibles combined, I give him 4 out of 5 on the ability criteria, and I'm going to pass it off to Frederic to talk about the cost component of Jonathan David. And as soon as I say that, he has momentarily disconnected. So let's see if we can get him back. And he's back. All righty. We
I
got
am
him back
so
immediately.
sorry.
The scoop, the scoop Juve, aka Frederic, is back. Why don't you walk us through the cost component of Jonathan David?
I'm sorry, I have a very
All
bad
right, I'll take
connection. I
it
don't know
from
if you can
here.
hear me, Zach.
Cost component, as you can see on your screen, if you are sharing your screen, or if you have a Spotify video or YouTube, he is 6 million net a year, 0% transfer fee, of course. $12 million signing, or euro, signing bonus on a 5-year contract. Considering, as we talked about, his potency and attack, both from scoring as well as assists, and getting him on a free, despite him being the second highest earner, I believe, on our team. We have graded, the cost at 5 out of 5 scoops for Jonathan David, bringing our final score in our scoop review of Jonathan David to 5 out of 5 scoops. We love the signing of Jonathan David. Not to say that it's perfect, but I think it's perfect for Juventus. Frederic, are you back with me?
I am very bad. My apologies. I don't know what happened. Connection went all haywire or something, but we're good now. And I have to say that amazingly well. I tend to very much agree with you. I think Jonathan David, from a financial standpoint, is a very, very good transfer. Let's just hope, because the pitch has the final say about transfers and costs
Hmm.
and whatnot. So let's just hope he does what he's expected to do and score a lot of goals, and then everybody's happy.
You're speaking as though we've gotten burned recently by three signings last year.
No, I wouldn't dare.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on to the scoop review of Chico Conceição, which will bring this episode to a close. So, like we did with Jonathan David, we'll break it down by ability and cost to give a final rating out of 5. From an ability standpoint, and unlike Jonathan David, I mean, Juventus fans, we all got to see Chico Conceição this year, so this should come as no surprise or the like to all of y'all. From an technical ability standpoint, he's an amazing dribbler. Now, I put scoring creating actions per 90, but from goal creating actions, scoring creating opportunities per 90, or overall, Chico Conceição lit up the team despite being only 14th in play time. The next bonus, we have Flair. His unpredictability and chaos in the attacking third that he presents for our team was just it was second to none in my opinion, which allowed us to get key victories, key victories and goals. What Leipzig against Inter in the second game, amongst others. From a technical standpoint, the one major negative that I kind of cited here is that he's really one-footed, meaning that if he can't set himself up on his left foot, he kind of has no option but to pass it benignly back. From an intangible standpoint, we got a lot more negatives here. I think the main positive is Grinta. Right, we talk about this a lot with Juventus, and I think it's unquestionable. Chico guy tries his hardest when he's on the pitch, no matter what, and it's even through that Grinta that we have these opportunities, and he's put himself in position to get game-winning goals and key moments for us this season. But he definitely has some weaknesses. These first two, build up, play, and vision, I think are kind of related. When it comes to the possession based, when we're not in the final third, he doesn't necessarily facilitate the buildup of play with pace and with really good passing. Maybe that's related to vision, but when I say vision, it's also when he's on the ball. Sometimes he'll just put his head down and run into a cul-de-sac, and put our defense under pressure by losing the ball and then creating counterattacking opportunities. These are two aspects of his game that he needs to improve on to become a complete player. The last two on the intangible side, from the negative standpoint, is his size. He is quite small, is often bodied and frequently fouled, which then leads us to the last negative, is he has had some injury issues. And so we'll have to pay attention to the amount of minutes he's able to play as a Juventus player. Because if he spends prolonged time on the bench, all of these wonderful positives that we talked about are rendered moot. With all these technical and tangible ability aspects combined, I have graded him a 3 out of 5 on the ability scale. Frederic, from a cost standpoint, break it down for us.
Well, the cost standpoint is something that for Chico is a bit different from the one that we just discussed with Jonathan David. So Chico should be earning 2.5 million net per year. We already paid out the 8 million loan fee without his salary last year, and now bonuses included, we should see a transfer fee of 32 million. Worst case scenario, 30 million and a bit. Best case scenario, um, which means that in total it's a hefty sum. Also a 5-year contract, which in my opinion is a good thing. But the sum, if you look at the whole, and you add up the pluses of our spending on him, it's hefty. What's the positive news for that hefty fee? We get to pay him 4 installments, meaning that we have 4 years to deduct his costs from the books. Meaning we also have some liquidation reserves ready for this year and next year's transfer market. But all in all, I'd grade him a 3 out of 5 as well, just because of the hefty sum that we've paid. Basically, it was the sum that our good friends at Porto were asking, and we had no choice but to cave in. Also due to the fact that Chico was very adamant on staying at Juventus, we wanted him. But all in all, I think a lot of people would agree with me that it's quite a hefty sum for somebody that I personally rate fairly highly, but not as, how shall I put it? For me, he's a player that can come in and decide a game, but for me, he's not the type of player to start a game and direct the game to his tempo and things like that. So I'm a bit on two fences at this point, and that's why I gave him a 3 out of 5.
He definitely has potential. For instance, when we compare him to Jonathan David, Chico has a lot more negatives, right? I think that same type of negative we saw with Chiesa when he joined, that head down running, that lack of vision, and so forth, are things that 22 years old that he can still work on. I think right now,
Yeah,
though, we have to grade him on the ability that he brings. We've got 3 out of 5 on the ability, 3 out of 5 on cost, which brings his final ice cream scoop rating to 3 out of 5 scoops. This should come to no surprise considering the previous slide. We like Chico, definitely has room to grow. And with that, we finished the content for this episode of The Scoop. We have shared with you two new segments: the determining factor and the Scoop review. Please take the opportunity in the YouTube comments, Instagram, or directly to us at Zach Talks Calcio or the Scoop Juve to let us know what you think of these new segments. Should we do it? Do you have recommended tweaks or suggestions? And we would love to hear those and to take those into account. But other than that, Frederic, as always, thank you to
thank
our
you.
listeners. It's for all of you that we do this. We appreciate you endlessly. And until we speak again, Forza Juve.